Good morning. Welcome into SimWorld today here on July 9th. I am happy to be back, and I'm happy to be back with big old haircut man himself, Ceej. Good morning, Ceej. How are you?
Good morning. Yes, I actually just got my certificate in cutting hair, so thank you. I appreciate that for celebrating me. I'm pretty excited about it.
Couldn't tell. Couldn't tell. I thought you were a professional already, judging by this haircut. So, well done. Well done. Plenty to get to, surprisingly, honestly, from an off-season perspective. A couple of SWBA dramaness, some college, some SimWorld U news, and of course, breaking news last night in SimWorld Prep that we will get to. Let's start at the top, work our way down, where Paul George said he was quote unquote disrespected by the Los Angeles Clippers during his contract negotiations in the line of fire in which he ultimately ended up signing with Philadelphia. So, a quick breakdown, and then we'll kind of dive in. Allegedly, he was offered in October, ish, I think is what he said. He was offered a 2-year, $60 million deal. If you listen to the Zach Lowe podcast, the Lowe Post, which I highly recommend, after all of your SimWorld content that you indulge in, that would have been before the trade for James Harden. It would have been probably a opt-in for 48 and then sign a 2-year deal. From there, he ends up getting the same offer that Kawhi Leonard got. Though he wanted a trade or no trade clause on it or a fourth year. Obviously, that didn't happen, and that is the timeline that Paul George has laid out. Siege, your opinion on really? Do you think he was right to feel disrespected? Was this inevitable going to be the end result of this based off how it started? What's your takeaway here?
Look, I think disrespected is a strong word for anyone who's getting offered $60 million over 2 years to play basketball. That's my personal opinion. I understand it. I get where he's coming from. You're on a podcast, you're talking it up. You might exaggerate a little bit. And yeah, Paul George has been one of the better players in the league for a long time, but he's not the Paul George that we used to know. He hasn't necessarily led a team, shown that he's going to be that guy for any team more than he's nice with it. Paul George is one of the nicest hoopers to watch I've ever seen. He absolutely is. He is the definition of a guy that you watch and you just think he's nice. But I don't know if disrespected is what I'd say. I think the Clippers are maybe trying to, who knows, they could be trying to get younger, trying to add some guys to the roster, leave some room on the salary cap. I wouldn't call it disrespectful. I'd call it, hey man, here's what we can offer you. You're not this superstar who's going to take us and make us contenders just by having you on the roster. This is what we can give you. And it's great for him. He could go and get more from a team that's already more of a contender in the Sixers. But no, to me, I don't think that's disrespectful. I think it's realistic.
I'm very torn by all this because on the one hand, like we're talking $30 million, and for I think the average person, that's a lot of freaking money, man.
That's a
If
lot of
somebody walked
money.
up to me and said 2 years 60, I'd be like, oh, I'm not disrespected. I'm very respected by that.
I'm gonna
But we're
spit in
talking
your face.
big
I'm
stuff.
gonna spit in your face. I'm
Great.
disrespected. Come on, come
Pinch me, I'm
on.
sleeping. Like this is baloney. So I think that's the first kind of context clue for just the average citizen to just be like, okay, feels disrespected because it's 20 million less than what they could pay him. And I think that's kind of where he's probably coming from. But I also think if we really like, I think his podcast has actually turned out to be really good. It's gotten a lot of honest tidbits out of it. But if we're being honest, that's how negotiations work. Like if we pulled the screen back on every single non Steph, KD, LeBron, guaranteed max every single time you talk to them player, you should probably start low and see if you can get a better deal. I remember I was 18 years old. I was working a job and the guy asked me how much do I want to get paid. I didn't freaking know. I had never had a job where somebody asked me how much I wanted to get paid. I was doing construction, and I think I said I want $12 an hour, and he was like, "You're gonna get 15, and never go with the lowest amount that you're willing to accept. Always go high." That was how that negotiation went. And from then on, the mentality has always been, and it should be on the opposite side, you go with the price point you want to pay, and you end up working back to what you will pay. And I think that's probably what the Clippers did here was that we would love to pay you 30 million. We don't expect this to be what you take. If you agree to it, that's awesome. But this isn't where we're gonna end up. And I think that was probably taken in the wrong way, Siege. I don't I think that would probably be the case for a lot of guys if we actually saw the negotiation tables that are presented at the professional sports contract level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's simply like you said, how negotiations work. I'm obviously not going to offer you the most money I can offer you the first time. I think people forget. I don't know how players forget. He says feels disrespected. And look, I love Paul George. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's crazy or anything. But players are talking about it all the time. When you get traded, the SWBA is a business. It always has been and always will be. It's about making money. It's about entertainment. It's about making money. Yes, great competition, good basketball, but it's a business. When you make a business deal, you're going to try and get the numbers that work best for you. So, the whole disrespected thing, I get it. I understand. You're a top tier player, so to say. But yeah, I think it's a little bit dramatic. I think it's a little bit dramatic is what it is.
I think it's the Clippers balking at a price tag that got them a team that really wasn't that great. Really probably wasn't going to be getting much better with three guys in their mid 30s, all of them with injury concerns. And they probably just felt like this is not the price that we feel like paying, and we'll figure it out on the other side, despite the fact that they just got substantially worse in a getting better Western Conference. Speaking of feeling no disrespect, I don't think Coach Dan Hurley is feeling any in UConn as he has signed a 6-year, $50 million deal to return to the Huskies. He is now under contract through the 2029-2030 season. There's more performance-based incentives on this deal, as was reported by ESPN. So there's obviously the chance that 50 million turns into 70 million, which would mirror what he got from the Los Angeles Lakers, which he ultimately turned back. Siege, this was what it was going to be. Dan Hurley, longer term extension now with UConn.
Look, I mean, let's be realistic, right? That's the theme of this one. We're gonna be realistic. This is a crazy contract for a college head coach. It is. It's a great contract. He deserves it. The program he's built there at UConn, he's kind of brought UConn back to prominence. They were never fully out of being, a prominent college basketball team, but they're a team that has a lot of rich basketball history. And over the years before Dan Hurley got there, it wasn't quite as prolific, let's say. And Dan Hurley has brought them back to being a notable team year in and year out. So, you know what? I think he deserves it. I don't even think it's crazy that he turned down a $70 million offer from the Lakers, because who knows if he would have actually been able to stay employed that entire contract. Probably not. So good for Dan Hurley. I think he deserves it, and it's a great deal for him. It's a great deal for UConn. They probably still got a steal on the guy. So all around, you shake hands and you say good job.
I'm kind of confused because I thought Dan Hurley signed an extension earlier this offseason, and maybe he did, and it wasn't for multiple years. I could have swore there was a report after they won or after they made it to the national championship game and ultimately lost to Miami that UConn extended him. Clearly, I might just be misremembering it, and maybe I'm a fortune teller. I don't know. But to your point about the Lakers, I think that I always kind of was curious if that was a leverage play. There was probably some honesty to it that the Lakers were interested in bringing him in. He was interested in going out there. But a lot of the times, to speak to contract negotiations, leverage matters. And having a professional team say, we'll pay you $70 million is a pretty good leverage piece for a collegiate coach to try to get some more money out of his hometown team. Not hometown where he's from, but you know what I'm saying. I think there was a lot that went into all of this, but at the end of the day, I cannot think of a more deserving head coach in today's SimWorld U environment than Dan Hurley to get a 5 or a 6-year extension that'll put him under contract through the end of this decade. I mean, he's fantastic. He like you said, he has taken a UConn program that's actually been pretty good historically, and then it fell off, and then he's put them right back into where you kind of are like they're a blue blood again if they ever weren't. It's it's kind of impressive. So yeah, to your point, very much deserved. And I think UConn's in a position with the recruiting class that they're bringing in from SimWorld Prep and elsewhere to clearly be a program that can lift these players and the team to national prominence again. Back-to-back championship game appearances, one title, one loss to just the immovable object that was the Miami Hurricanes. It's not a bad track record. Let's head to SimWorld Prep, where last night breaking news came out. Josiah Cook has suffered a lower back injury during training. The injury was suffered this past weekend. Um, while he is expected to make a full recovery to just normal life, there is very serious question marks about the future of his basketball career. The lower back injury supposedly has some nerve injuries, nerve endings that have been impacted. The defensive player of the year, though, Ceej, might be done at 15. A really sad state of affairs.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, sad is the best word for it. Disappointing for the basketball world. Disappointing for Josiah Cook himself. 15 years old and crazy loaded with potential. This kid was. He just looked like he belonged out there on the basketball court. Defensively, his offensive game was starting to diversify all around. I mean, and the kid just loved the game. You ever talk to the guy? I mean, he loved the game, and so all around, you just hate to see it. And 15 years old, man. I mean, you don't hear about a lot of career-ending injuries at 15 years old, and hopefully, I say that, but hopefully, God forbid, that's not what we're looking at here. But all around, man, I'm really at a loss for words on what to say about that. You don't like to see it with anyone, especially a guy who had as much potential as he did.
Yeah, you've hit all the points that I would dare to make. It's ceiling was high, but that's not what makes this upsetting or disappointing or a really bad situation. Just because he had good potential, just because he played well, it's upsetting to see a 15-year-old have a long lifeline of sports ahead of him. And look, maybe he's still able to play basketball, but it's just more of the concern of reaching this elite level. Because there's no doubt about like you said, the ceiling that he had was so high. He already was at an elite level as a 15-year-old. So it's upsetting to see that stripped away from him at such a young age. At the same time, the hope is if he can return to normal life, as is reported, that makes you feel good about many things. In terms of just, it's not as if he's, God forbid, wheelchair bound for the rest of his life because of a training accident, but rather just, you know, the potential just won't be reached at the very least. So all of our thoughts obviously go out to Cook and his family. He was on the yacht club no longer as he was anticipating a move this offseason. It seems unlikely that that'll happen, but anything else that comes through, we'll obviously keep tabs and continue to keep updates on it. But all the best for them. Hopefully that is a healthy recovery to whatever healthy looks like for the future of Josiah Cook. All right, Ceej, appreciate you joining us this morning. Appreciate you all for tuning in here on SimWorld today. We'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday morning. More things going on. A reminder, this Saturday, 1 p.m., the McDonald's All-American Games and festivities right here on SimWorld TV. We'll see you tomorrow morning on SimWorld Today on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.